Hey, 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 thank you guys. Thank you guys. It is 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. This is the Brad Stine Show. And if I'm not mistaken, it's episode 8. Now, of course, there's been lots of episodes prior to that, but once it became officially a podcast, it we started over. So, episode 8. And here we are. And I wasn't here, as you know, hopefully you know, I wasn't here last week. And so I'm back and I am ready to play ball. So it's exciting to have you guys here. Exciting to be part of your night. And for those of you who spend the moment to spend some time with me, thank you for coming. That's very kind, very humbling, and always makes me shake my head in wonderment that people's lives would be so dull, so pathetic, that they literally need to watch me to get through the night. And maybe they don't. Maybe this is something that you do as a dare. Maybe you watch my show because you lost a bet of some kind. Maybe you're drunk and you have no idea what you're watching right now because you think it's all an illusion, a hallucination. Nevertheless, here you are, and good to have you here. Let's say hi to the first couple of folks that say hi to me. That would be Nick Kress. Good evening, Brad. Good evening back to you, Nick. Top fan, apparently. Nathaniel Thomas is saying hi. How are you? Teresa Marie, hi there. Sorry missed you last week. Well, I don't know if you mean sorry you missed me last week as in you sorry that I wasn't here last week, or in that you missed the show last week. And if you missed the show last week, I didn't have a show because I was gone. So maybe I should have shut up and just pretended like it was all your fault. Ha! That would have been perfect. But I didn't. I'm too good. I'm a man of honesty and virtue. So I am here and I'm back. And where was I? All right. Well, here's the problem. First off, when you have a podcast of your very own, you're not dictated by the networks. You are not dictated by some producers or some sponsors that have decided you've got to be here at this time and this is what you're going to do and here's our budget and this is what's going to happen. When it's your own podcast and you're doing it on the internet, so basically you're sort of usurping their platform and using somebody else's hard work to create this thing in the first place, and you're just shoving your material on that. You can do whatever you want. So it's kind of like owning your own network. It's kind of like being a rich guy, being a super, Bill Gates, richer than anybody in the entire world. I can do whatever I stink. I can buy $100 million yacht and sink it for laughs one afternoon because I got nothing else to do. That kind of rich guy can get away with this stuff. I don't have those kind of riches, clearly. But I can, in fact, not suddenly be on a podcast, at least for right now. There might come a time when that will not be true, when I will be beholden to that corporate staff of folks who pay me to come on and talk to folks that are like yourselves. So that might happen someday. That's kind of what we're seeing. It may or may not. We don't know. But we do know that people do watch every week, and it's getting more and more all the time. And so I'm glad to have you here. Let me say hi to a few more folks. That would be, there's Benjamin Gregory. Benjamin wasn't with us 2 weeks ago. Benjamin is the guy that puts up all the little links for people that want to give to my ministry. He'll put a link up. People that want to go to Front Sight and learn firearms training with me live, so you can be the perfect citizen and the incredibly detailed firer of a concealed carry permit guy like me. You can show up at Front Sight in May and be with me and Rick Green teaching on the Constitution and learning how to fight. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing as well. So Benjamin always lets people know about that. These are my glasses. There's two things that I do to show you how smart I am. Right now I'm an idiot, clearly. Once I put the glasses on, though, it does give me the illusion that I'm smarter, or at least look like Harry Potter. Or I do this. This is what I do when I answer questions, because something about a pipe adds IQ simply by using the prop. So here's what I am. I'm probably at 67, 68 IQ, but watch, 140. So if you ever see me put a pipe in, something deep and unique is about to spew from my mouth. Let's see who else came and said hi before we get going here. Let's see. Nick Kress said, literally nothing better on TV. Now, you can take that comment two ways. That could be the ultimate comment. Brad, I got to tell you something. You have such a compelling show. It's so deep, it's so rich and unique and special that there just nothing on television compares. That would be the compliment I would like to think it was, but it wasn't. What it was there's so much crap on television. You'll do. That should be that should be my motto. The Brad Stine Show, you'll do. But anyways, here I am. And where was I last week? Well, I'm going to tell you all where I was last week. Last week I was in Southern California. Oh, it never rains in California, but girl, don't they warn you? It pours. Remember that old song? 70s, probably 72. Anyways, it does rain in California, but in the rainy season. The rest of the time, it doesn't rain at all because it would be too. It would get in the way of their, you know, their hot yoga workout because it's California. How dare you rain when I'm trying to be ostentatious and walk around my yoga pants to show how incredibly important I am because I live in Southern California. So don't rain now because I'm trying to look really good and I don't want to ruin my cell phone. And I have the top down. But I was there. I was down in Vista, California. What was I doing in Vista, California? Well, Vista happens to be the place that I go to every, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, and it is the studio that actually first began to film me doing episodes of Brad Stine Has Issues. It was going to start out as a podcast a couple of years ago, and I said, I really don't want to do a podcast because here I am at that time because I felt like, it's hard to do. A million people are doing it. I don't know if people would be interested in me. It's hard to make enough people pay attention to even make it worth it, to make it even profitable. So, and you got to do it consistently. And because I travel, I didn't know that I could do it consistently. Well, sure enough, I said, I'll tell you what I'll do, though. If you will allow me to stand in front of a camera, stand in front of a table as though we're on a talk show or on a Tonight Show type thing or that type of a environment, if you let me do that and you film me as though I was doing a rant about a particular topic, if you'll do that, I will do that. Because that interests me. I want to talk about things. I've always talked about deeper things in my comedy, or at least tried to put some things that were a little bit deeper than just a typical humor into my show. And I thought, well, this would give me a chance to go a little bit deeper and maybe be some humor, but also have some depth to it, some philosophy to it, some apologetics to it, some logic and reason. So it's a 7 to 10 to 12-minute rant. Well, we've been playing the Brad Stine Has Issues on YouTube that you can subscribe, and I hope you will subscribe and press the ring button so that it'll let you know when a new episode's drop. But I gave them for free because I wanted to show people what I was interested in, what I was doing, and what you were seeing was the birth of a ministry, frankly, a way for me to tell the things that matter to me that I think are the single most important things on earth, and do it in an episodic way that would be of interest to people, maybe not your typical religious rant, not your typical apologetics rant, not your typical logical or reasonable or philosophical exposition. This was just simply a unique way to talk about issues of the day, and that's why I created Brad Stine Has Issues. Well, we've gotten to a place now, as you guys know, because those of you who are watching me right now are the ones that basically launched and helped me launch this ministry on the social media, because you guys watched and you actually donated to help me get some cameras, get some mics and so forth. You know the story. You've been here every Monday. You know where we're at. And that we're trying to build this place out so it'll be not too hot, not too cold, and able for me to do it regularly. So that's where we're at. And I went to California because what I do and what I have to do is I have to shoot a lot of episodes. Now, the reason I have to shoot a lot of episodes is because it's all about finances. If I came and did a show every day, you'd have to have a crew every day, running cameras every day, doing switchers every day, directing it, producing it every day. That's expensive. If I had, a million people watching my show or whatever, and they were all on Patreon or we had sponsors, then I could do that because there would be the money to pay for all of this stuff. I don't have any of that things. I just have regular sort of gypsies like you, these sort of crazy folks that just say, I love you, I love what you're doing, I want to give to you, I love your comedy, but this is something unique and we want to add to the mix. So that's where we're at so far. And I went back to get a whole new batch of episodes, about 30. I shot about 30. Why? Because I shoot them in 2 days. And that way they can come out once a week. I think they come out on Tuesdays, the day after today, the day after I've done a live podcast, and they come out and you can go see them, but you can only do them now. They're no longer free. They're actually part of you investing in the ministry. So if you become a Patreon subscriber or whatever you call it, and do it every month, you can do a $5, I think 10 and 50 or something like that. There's 3 levels you can do, and if you do subscribe on the small scale, $5 or more, you get to see, you have free access to Stine Has Issues, the brand new issues that nobody else gets to see. So that's what we're doing. But I did do a couple different things this time that I wanted to do just to spice it up and give you guys something else interesting and to make it worth your time to be a Patreon member of my ministry, patreon.com/Brad Stine. What did I do? I interviewed Nancy Pearcey. I don't know if you guys know who Nancy Pearcey is. She is an amazing apologist, philosopher. She teaches, I think, at Houston Baptist Seminary, or maybe it's Houston Baptist College, University. I don't remember. I know she's contemporaries with William Lane Craig, and they teach in the same spot. She's amazing. She has an amazing book called Total Truth, which you need to get. If you want to know how to defend your faith, get Total Truth. It will really give you really understanding of what has happened in the Western culture, especially in postmodernism, where life was put into 2 stories. Francis Schaeffer, who she studied with in L'Abri in Switzerland, really framed it like this. There's an upper story in life, there's a lower story. The lower story are the facts, the upper story are the values. So they've separated them as though they're 2 distinct realities. The bottom is would be things that you that are scientific things or mathematics, or things that are you can see and define and tangible, and they're the material world, and these are facts. Whereas the values, the things on top of the things that matter to you, religious beliefs, faith, philosophy, things along that line, and they put them in a separate category. Well, I don't believe that. I am a dualist. I believe that we are body and spirit, but we're intertwined. We work together, and the postmodern world separated us from our spirit and just said we were just a machine, we're a moist robot, all the different unique ways that they claim to dehumanize the human, all the while being very intellectual and insightful about what their perspective is as a human, and yet they're dehumanizing the human as though they're not much more valuable than an iguana. So it doesn't make sense, never has, but if you don't want to believe in God, then you have to sort of make things up on the fly. So when I was in California, I got to do a long interview. I think I might do the first 10 minutes. I might put out for free so you guys can get to meet her, see what she's about. She's a very interesting one, very smart, intelligent. She also put out the latest book is Love Thy Body, which really deconstructs what has created the transgender movement, homosexual rights movement, abortion, eugenics, all these very important issues that are in culture happening every day. And she breaks it down from a Christian perspective. What is really going on? What is really underneath all of this? So we talked about these things, and that's what the interview is going to be. So again, if you want to subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/Brad Stine, then you can get access to this interview. I also did something even different and even more unique. I brought in an old friend. His name is Gregory Wilson. You wouldn't know him unless you know magic. Sleight of hand when I say magic. Because he's one of the top sleight of hand magicians in the world. He's very well known in that community for inventing tricks, for selling DVDs to people about how to do different types of magic tricks. What do you call it? Street magic stuff on the fly as you're walking around doing magic. That's what he does. I've known him for many, many years, and I brought him on live because we're in California, and I know that he also is a conservative and doesn't believe in the mask nonsense. So he came on down, and I literally put him next to me, and we got to actually interview him because he has a very unique lecture that he does for churches called Deception Detection, and he talks about how easy it is to be deceived. He used to be a con man and actually conned people and did sort of illegal things until he ended up in jail. He's always got a very interesting testimony, but he's pickpocket, con man, and also can teach about how you can be deceived, not only intellectually, not only through your mental capacities, which is what magicians and con men do, but of course you can be deceived spiritually. So this is something that he's talking about. We talk a little bit about what that is, how he teaches about it, and then I had him do some sleight of hand and some magic. Again, you can see this all live, all being done, taped. It's done live, obviously, but filmed. And if you join my Patreon, then you can watch these magic tricks. So this was what I was doing in California. And I got to say something about California. People have always, I think people get the impression that I hate California. And there's a whole joke I did in one of my, let me think which one it was. I don't remember. Anyways, there was a joke I did about California falling into the ocean, and they keep threatening to fall in the ocean, but they never do. I don't want them to die. I just want them to float away. Hey, say hi to the Ninth Circuit Court when you pass Guam. That's kind of the joke. Anyways, I make fun of California, but keep in mind, I lived there for 30 years. So I've been in all 50 states, and if somebody, I may have said this to you guys before, but it bears repeating, if someone put a gun to my head, and that's assuming guns are legal and they're accessible, and said to me, what is the best state, if you could only have one state to represent the United States, what is the best all around state? Every state has something great about it. Every state has something that sucks about it. Every state has something better than somebody else's state. I mean, how are you going to compete with Hawaii? But then again, how are you going to compete with Alaska? And yet, even Kansas, which I consider the most boring state I've ever been to, has interesting and pretty and beautiful things to see. All the United States has something amazing. But if I was forced to decide what pound for pound has the most that it can give you, and you would have access to, in diversity and uniqueness of all the states, I would say California wins. Hands down. It's got the best temperate weather when you're down in southern Orange County, down to San Diego. Best weather year-round. It's got the ocean, or you can drive up to Big Bear and ski on the same day in the snow. Or you can go into the desert, because they've got a full-blown desert. Or you can go up into Napa Valley and see wine vineyards and grape vineyards everywhere. Or you can go to Yosemite and see redwoods, which I don't think are anywhere else in the whole world. And you can go to very cosmopolitan, famous, unique cities like San Francisco or Hollywood, and go see all the Walk of Fame and see the handprints and whatnot. Or you can go up into Bakersfield and Fresno and Redding and see farm communities and very conservative people. So there's just, and they have lakes if you want fresh water as well. You want some of the top dining they got. You want some great churches there in California. There's nothing like California in what it has to offer. What it has become, absurd what San Francisco has become. This really unique, beautiful city has become absolutely just embarrassment to America, to California, just to poor governance. I mean, how would anybody allow this to happen? But with certain ideologies, things like allowing people, because you don't want to in any way shame them or make them feel out of place or make them feel less than, will allow you to sleep on the streets, poop in the streets if you need to, shoot up in the streets if you need to, cast that needle aside. Who are we to judge? We don't want plastic in our oceans. We don't want that for sure. A turtle might get in trouble. But listen, throw those needles anywhere you need and take a dump right there on the curb, because, hey, again, we're not here to judge you. We're here to make your life as dignified as it can possibly be. And what's more dignifying than watching somebody take a dump on the side of the road? Seriously, I mean, what can make you feel more at home as a human and feel more uplifted than doing? And then let's go see that he's dumping. Now let's go see Golden Gate Bridge. So it's a great. You really get every aspect of the human condition when you go to San Francisco now. But that's what it's become. But I went there, and you land, and it feels oppressive. It feels, because they are so mask oriented. Watching people walking down sidewalks wearing masks. I can't believe it. Driving their car, wearing their mask. It's so unbelievably, has become so commonplace. It's become part of their attire. It's become part of their normalcy. That was the problem I had from the very get-go, is I don't want to normalize this. I don't want to take a photo of myself wearing a mask as though I'm proud. Why would you be proud about wearing something that indicates that the most horrific pandemic in human history is taking place? But look at me. At least I'm doing my part. I look stupid and it's ineffective, but it gives me the sense that I'm doing something. That's all I need. Don't need data. Don't need proof that this has done anything. Don't need to look at the data that shows the open states have actually are declining in their rates of infection, and those that are the most masked have the most. Forget that. It doesn't matter. If I feel good wearing it, that's all I need. It's always about me. Remember, postmodernism is institutionalized narcissism. It's always about me, only about me. That's all that matters. Oh, and by the way, if you don't humor me, if you don't wear your mask, then you also are insensitive and evil. And now we're shaming people for simply choosing a different path in their autonomy. So this was exactly what I was the most concerned about, what I was most fearing. Wasn't that, listen, if, as I've said a million times, I'm not going to stay on this topic, if this was the Black Plague and half the people that got it died on the streets with blood coming out of their ears, I'd be wearing a stinking mask like anybody else. I just didn't like what we were battling, whether this was going to be helpful. And now, of course, we're at a place where you have to take this unproven, un-FDA-approved vaccine that are affecting some people in a terrible way. And now they're getting to a place where if you don't have it, you can't travel. You can't go here. You can't go there. I mean, guys, I don't know what more you need, and you don't. If you're watching my show, you don't. You're wrong. You guys are in. You're awakened warriors. I know you're the awakened warriors. But what more do you need to see what it looks like to be totalitarian and to be dystopian, frankly, because it's the fear that we'd have always had when we wrote and saw and read and watched movies on dystopian societies and science fiction novels. What it would look like if somebody was able to take control of everybody else. So that's where that was. But California is such a perfect example of this because again, it feels oppressive. I don't know how to say it. I'm in Tennessee. As soon as I get off, I whip that mask off. I can't take it off fast enough. I walk into my grocery store. I walk in free, and I will say this: I'm starting to see more and more people without masks. Now I don't know if it's just Tennessee, and the mandates have been lifted, and people are finally getting some courage. As you know, I've been doing it from the get-go. Speaking of the get-go, I do have a new Brad Stine T-shirt, the Put a Helmet On Classic, with the original Put a Helmet On album cover. We are now going to go to auction. So this is a extra large. I don't think I have XS. If you'd like this, we are going to be giving to the to growing the studio. That's what I'm trying to do. We're still trying to build some framing, and I told you this last time, I have the permits that have been approved from the city so that I can begin. And by the way, just so that you guys know, to make you clear, I didn't have to go get permits from the city to build and stuff in my own home. I get that. I could have done anything I want, ran my own electricity, ran my own HVAC. And when I say ran my own, what I mean is had somebody come do that for me, because I can't do anything like that. But I could have had all that done without getting anybody's permission. But I wanted it to be able to be approved and signed off as 2 code so that I could add it to my home's square footage, so it gave some more value. So again, I'm trying to be prudent and be a good steward of what God has given me. And if this framework that is my roof line that I'm sitting in right now is going to be my podcast studio, and if I'm going to do it more often, and if I'm going to be able to bring people in and do interviews and do some of the fun things I'd like to do, then, I just have to build it out. So that's what we're going to do. So anybody that wants to give right now, again, I would love it if you could start at $50. I will sign it. I will send it to you. There's been 4 or 5 that have already been out and sent to people. And for those of you who want to choose at any price, I found another Brad Stine Put a Helmet On old-fashioned vintage poster, which I will sign to you or to a loved one if you want to give it as a gift. So just whatever you want to donate, whatever you're willing to donate, just simply let me know. And whoever wins at the end of the podcast, who donates the most, I will send them this gift. And I'll send you a link so you'll know how to just put the dough in. And I also still have, and it's one of my most popular ones, so I don't want to not make it available to you guys. This one's a large, but I can find an XL, I believe. Nothing Matters But God. One of my most famous lines in my most famous T-shirts. I will sign it. I'll send it to you, $50 or more. And I will give you one last thing that you can bid on, and that is I have another audio book of my book that's out on Amazon that I just advertised last week. I was on Huckabee, brand new Huckabee show, and it's called Being a Christian Without Being an Idiot, 11 Assumed Truths That Make Us Look Stupid. By the way, if you go on Amazon, you're going to see 2 books. You're going to see a blue book that is like $16.99, I think, and it will say Being a Christian Without Being an Idiot. 11 Assumed Truths That Make Us Look Stupid. But you might see a brown book that says Being a Christian Without Being an Idiot, 10 Assumed Truths That Make Us Look Stupid. That book is an older version that I self-published. It was never published out into the press. I self-published it. It's out there. There are some signed copies out there. But remember, the new book, the one that is out now, the one that I'm going to offer you the audiobook to, whoever wants to bid on that, and whatever you want to bid, I'll send that to you, any fee, because it's all done through, I'll just send you a link to it. But that book is 11 Assumed Truths That Make Us Look Stupid. The old book is 10 Assumed Truths. I have a whole new chapter on the new book, 11 Assumed Truths, and that chapter is, Can Christianity and Political Correctness Coexist? The answer is, of course, no. So I go into depth about that. I also added a whole personal experience that I had when it came to drinking, and it's in the chapter on Is Drinking and Smoking a Sin? So these are personal stories that I added. So it's a much larger volume, the blue one, the new one. And it's the one that I talked about on Huckabee where I held up the book. So if you guys would like to get an audio version of that, and thank you, S.D. Benjamin put up the link to it. But if you want to get an audio version and bid on that, whatever you bid, you can start at any cost you want. Whoever has the highest bid will send you the link. You can send it in, and I will literally just email you the link and the password so you can listen to the audio version. It'll happen instantaneously. So let's get back to work. I was talking to you about California and getting out of there. There's something that happened while I was gone that I really feel like I need to discuss because it literally broke my heart. And it happened, I think, a week ago or so. And what it is, that's again, I'm not I don't do a daily show, so my topics might be a week behind or whatever. But it still bears discussion because it's important. Because we're Americans and we care about freedom, hopefully, and we care about the First Amendment, hopefully, and we care about our traditions, hopefully, and we care about getting along together and being civil together and caring about each other. So I want to talk about baseball and its decision to move the All-Star game from Georgia to Denver. So why do I want to talk about that? Does baseball have the right to put their All-Star game anywhere they want? Yeah, I guess they do. I don't control Major League Baseball. I don't have any say-so in what they do or don't do, obviously. But baseball is unique, okay? Some of you may not even be sports fans, but for those of you who are sports fans in America, you might be a football fan. You might be a basketball fan. You might be a hockey fan. You might be, and I'm just joking, a soccer fan. I'm kidding. Nobody would be a soccer fan. But you might be a baseball fan. I happen to be a baseball fan. I grew up loving baseball. And let me tell you why this had a special place in my heart. When I was 3 years old, I would sit on my dad's lap, barely remember this, but kind of do, in Indiana. I lived in a little town called Bremen, Indiana. I was sitting on my dad's lap. We'd listen to the radio, and he would listen to Dodger games because he was a Los Angeles Dodger fan. Now, he was actually a Brooklyn Dodgers fan because that's where they came from, Brooklyn, New York. And he was a fan of theirs in the 50s. And then they moved to Los Angeles, I think in 1958, 58, 59, I don't remember. I think 58. But anyways, and so he was still a Dodger fan then. And he somehow would pick up the games. I don't know how. It was only on the radio. It might have been because they were playing the Cubs, which would have been close. Chicago's few hours, only a 3 hours drive, I think, from where I grew up in Indiana. Maybe the Cardinals games he might have picked up. And so he might have got the Dodgers when they were playing one of these two. But he would listen to these games, and I would sit on his lap, and he would tell me about the Dodgers and how great the Dodgers were and how much he loves the Dodgers. Oh, and the other thing was how much he hated the Yankees. That's really a key to being a true baseball fan, is you either love the Yankees or you hate them. There is no ambivalence. There is no middle ground. You must hate the Yankees or you must love them. Nothing else in between. There is no nuance. There's no shades of gray. This is all in or all out. That's just what the Yankees have created. But I would listen to that, and my dad said that I used to call them the Rogers. So he said, well, let's listen to the Rogers. And that was cute because I was 3, and I just said Rogers instead of Dodgers. And I wanted to let you guys know that so that you could picture me as a little 3-year-old and think how sweet I must have been and make you want to pinch my cheek. That's why I threw that out, just to give you an added bonus of what a cutie I must have been. But I called them the Rogers, and we would listen to them. And he gave me something. He gave me his love of baseball and his love of the Dodgers. Now, if you have a father that you had a good relationship with, so unfortunately some don't, but let's say you did have a father that you had a good relationship with, you share things together. There's something that you pass on normally as a father. And sports is one of those things, especially in certain towns, certain cities. It's very, very much a part of the DNA of the people, of the father and the son. Green Bay, Wisconsin, Packers, right? Chicago, Cubs or White Sox, right? Yankees if you're in New York, right? Cardinal fans, huge. St. Louis Cardinal baseball fans. So there were certain teams. Now, of course, I don't care where you. If you grew up in Denver, you like the Broncos. Or if you like, whatever. You're Phoenix now has got whoever. I don't know. But there were some classic cities and towns that you passed on. It was like tradition. You had to be love these people. And there was something beautiful even about the years that the Red Sox and the Cubs couldn't win the World Series. There was something beautiful about that because the fans just hung in there, and it gave them a continuity, and they gave them something to fight for, and it gave them something to believe in together. And when the Red Sox finally won, and what a glorious, what a glorious time that was when they came back from 3-0 against the stinking piece of crap Yankees and swept them. It had never been done in history that a team down 3-0 came back and won 4 straight. And the Red Sox, whose greatest nemesis obviously was the Yankees, and keep in mind the Red Sox had Babe Ruth and sold him to the Yankees, so many called it that was their curse and why they never won, because they sold Babe Ruth. But anyways, they came back and beat the Yankees and then went on to the World Series and I think swept the Cardinals, if I remember now. But it was beautiful. And they would go to the graves of their fathers and their grandfathers and put a ball or a mitt and say, we did it. We finally won one. So that was beautiful. But that was baseball in America. It was called, and has been called for many years, the national pastime. It's the oldest sport that America has celebrated. We invented the sport, let alone have been playing it since the 1880s. We invented it. We made it up, and now the whole world plays. We invented basketball too, but I don't even know if we invented football. Probably that the type of football we play here, anyways. But it was something that was special to be a baseball fan and to have your father pass that on. And so I was a Dodger fan. And one of the things that my dad passed on to me was Jackie Robinson. He told me about Jackie Robinson. He said, you got to understand something about the Dodgers. In 1947, Jackie Robinson, who was a black baseball player, was signed to play for the Dodgers. Now, at that time, black Americans weren't allowed to play Major League Baseball. And so he came in and said, nope, Branch Rickey, the general manager of the Dodgers, said, we're going to bring you in. We're going to make this, we're going to break this color barrier. So how beautiful. That's another thing that baseball gave America. It became a social scenario where it broke a color barrier. It brought in, before Rosa Parks sat in the front of the bus and said, I'm not moving. I have the same freedom and dignity and pay the same taxes as everybody else. I'm an American. I'll sit where I choose. God bless her. Before that, Jackie Robinson played baseball. Okay. Before Martin Luther King in the Civil Rights Movement, and said, I'm not going to shoot you people. I'm not going to be violent, but I am going to stand for the dignity and the rights that belong to me based on the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence that you said was available to all of us. That all of us are created equal. I'm going to demand that. I'm going to stand for that. And any law that forbids that is unlawful. It is immoral, and I won't stand for it. God bless him for doing that and for taking that stand and having that courage and opening up the doors to try to make America more equitable. Long before that, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. So baseball has that incredible tradition and that incredible iconic moment to leave to the United States and do something incredibly important. And you know what? I got to tell you something. I grew up playing baseball myself. I loved playing, and I played all the way through my senior year of high school. I was, I'd say, above average fielder. Had an average arm, not a great hitter, but loved playing and was passionate about it. But when I was growing up watching the Dodgers and loving the Dodgers, the first player that I can recall liking a lot, really loving this character, was Maury Wills. He was the shortstop for the Dodgers back in the 70s. Now, he was black. I also was a big fan of their center fielder, whose name was Willie Davis. He was black. I was also a fan when I was growing up and playing baseball. I had two posters on my wall. One was Joe Frazier, the the boxer. I traded some baseball cards to a friend of mine, and I got two baseball cards back. I got a Mickey Mantle and a Roger Maris, and a poster. It was a life-size poster of Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier, who beat Muhammad Ali in '72, right? And and I actually saw in one time leaving Nashville airport, Joe Frazier was in the Delta room. I saw him there, never said anything to him, and he flew in the same flight I was going to wherever we went next. I also flew once with Muhammad Ali, so I actually flew once in the same flight, once with Muhammad Ali, once with George Frazier. So I had that poster, but he's black. And I had another poster. Well, actually, I had a Willie Davis poster, and I also had Hank Aaron poster, who was one of the greatest baseball players by far in history. I loved Roberto Clemente. He was the right fielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Had a rifle arm, could hit like crazy. He was Latino, black. I loved Don Buford, who was an Oriole, because he was short like me. And was black. I loved Joe Morgan. Hated him when he came up to bat against the Dodgers because he always did damage. But big fan because he was short and could hit home runs. I was short and couldn't. What's my point? Every one of these baseball players that I admired, that were my heroes, that were my idols, so to speak, were black. And you know what I never did? I never stopped and wondered, maybe I should go find a white guy. I absolutely didn't give a crap. I loved baseball, and I loved people who were great at it. And so if somebody's great at it, I admired them, and I like to watch a Willie Mays, big fan. Who couldn't be a fan of Willie Mays? So baseball showed me that skill was all that mattered. And I got to say, you don't sit and think about color until somebody brings it up. Do you understand? If nobody ever brought it up, if nobody said, hey, look, the first black plumber union leader has just been elected, nobody'd care. If people just let people's name be said, John Smith has just been elected A, B, and C, and you happen to see he's black, but nobody mentioned it. It just happened to be his name. Nobody would care anymore. It's this emphasis by the left on race that makes it an issue that causes conflict, and they do it on purpose because they want converts. Okay? Political correctness, I've told you this before. Leftism, I've told you this before. And if I haven't, or if you haven't been here when I said so, you need to understand. It's a religion. The reason that they are so devoted to it, it's their religion. The reason that they are so committed to everybody obeying it is because the state is God. The governance of the governors and the senators and the congressmen, they are the prophets. They are the priests and the bishops, okay? The lawyers, the judges, okay, that demand leftist ideology, and trumping constitutionally created ideas that had precedent, that they overturn, like Roe v. Wade, for example, one of the worst decisions ever in the history of the Supreme Court. But they become basically the high priests who get to dictate what God is saying now, what he's speaking of. Keep in mind, and I think you should know this by now, but if you don't, know this. Everybody that exists on earth is designed to worship God. We're designed that way. I don't care if you're an atheist and don't believe it. I don't care if you're watching me for the first time and said, oh, I didn't know he was going to talk about religious stuff. I'm not talking about religious stuff. I'm talking about the way the world works. And the way the world works is human beings rule the world. We're the ones that create governances. We're the ones that are overseers. We're the ones that create wars. We're the ones that fight and torture people or be kind to them. We're the ones that create technology that can make us land on the moon, or create technology that can blow an entire city into pieces and obliterate them by one bomb. We are the human race. We are one of a kind in the universe. We are made in the image of God, and he designed us to worship him, but he gave us free will to deny him. Not only to deny even worshiping him or humbling ourselves, to even deny he exists. That's how interesting God is. He truly wanted to create a free group of folks that had the freedom to seek him and come sort of find him in the shadows, because he's God. He's so much bigger than we can imagine. If you get rid of God, you don't get rid of God. You replace him with an idol or a counterfeit of some kind. To the left, when you are speaking to a social justice warrior, and they are screaming, and they are insane, and they are crazy, and they are demanding you think like them, and they are demanding that you believe like them, and they consider you a heretic if you don't agree with them, and they consider you a sinner of sinners if you don't agree with their theology, if you don't agree with their worldview, their philosophy, their ideology. Think about it like that. If you see them as deeply committed fanatics about their religion, you'll understand why they are what they are. They are absolutely committed. They got rid of God, so they also got rid of a moral standard. They got rid of anything that holds them accountable that's bigger than themselves, because remember, institutional narcissism. So they make themselves God, give themselves permission and the foundation to do whatever they choose, whatever morals they choose to inculcate into culture becomes truth and reality. They literally create things ex nihilo. A man says he's a woman, he is. A woman says she's a man, he is. A white woman says she's black, she is. This is like miracles. This is miracles taking place. We are literally recreating in our own image that which we desire. Okay, we craft it from nothing, and it wasn't, and now it is, and it was simply by the word. By the word. What do we always hear from these folks? They say that language is violence. Think about that. They've taken language, which is a ethereal idea. It's not in the material world. It's a thought. It's an idea. It's a concept. It's real, but it's transcendental, right? It's in our minds, it's inside of our brain, but it isn't our brain. It's minds, it's thoughts, it's patterns. We don't know how it works. Nobody does. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know how we draw from it. We don't know who it is that's drawing the information from the hard drive, the brain, into that person that's able to calculate what this information is and then disseminate it back to other people. This is impossible. This is miraculous. If a computer exists, it has a hard drive with the information. The separate human being has to come in, put in whatever he wants to look for. He has to know what he's looking for, tell it what to look for, bring it back. That's what your brain is. It's filled with material. Something is telling your brain, go find stuff and give it to me, but I have to be separate. Just like you don't become your computer when you begin to utilize it. It's simply a tool giving you information, the real you, so you can use it, because the computer can't do anything with the information. The computer can say, here's how to make an atomic bomb, but it can't make one because it's just a computer. It's just an information system. A computer can say that somebody's about to go be attacked and be shot, but it can't run after and stop it. It's an inanimate object. So is your brain. It's this inanimate, what is it, 5 pounds? I don't know, 3 pounds meat that stores information, but inside of you is your spirit, your soul. And that separate entity that interacts with your biological being and your brain is where your mind is. That's where the thoughts are. It's a miraculous, beautiful, spiritual, sacred journey. Every single time you think, you are accessing the mind of God. This is one of the proofs that I use when I'm in churches and do the God experience, which is my show that uses sleight of hand as a visual aid to talk about the proofs of God. And churches are bringing me in for weekends. The God Experience Weekend, where I come in on a Friday night and I do men only. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be in Georgia this weekend. So if you go to my website, bradstine.com, you can see which town I am. This Friday, I'll be doing men only. Saturday night will be comedy. And then Sunday, I'll be teaching at this church. So come on down, check it out if you're in that area. And so I'm also going to be doing my ministry into the nightclubs. For those of you who are fans and been watching for quite some time, I am going into comedy clubs again, because I realize for me to speak to you guys is wonderful, because I hope I inspire you, but you already think, most of you like me, and already agree with most of the things I agree with. So hopefully I inspire you and maybe give you some places to go seek and get deeper information so you can affect your community. But what I really want is, what about the people that don't think like this, that don't hear this type of information, that have never seen comedy that lifts up God and country and tears down political correctness? Because I want to watch political correctness die in my lifetime. But first, you know the answer, I want to watch it suffer. Very good. I heard a couple of you out there. So I am going to be in Tampa April 25th. So if you are in Tampa, Florida, and you want to come to Side Splitters, I will be there the 25th, in a couple weeks, on a Sunday night. Tickets are already selling out. They're not sold out, but they're selling fast. I already have a number of people who have told me they're going to be there. Bring a crowd. Bring your church. If you have a church group, if you have a singles group, if you have a adult group, if you have, I don't know, if you have a senior citizens group, whatever it is, come out. Bring your church. Show the people in nightclubs where drinks will be served, as well as, chicken wings, right, and chicken fingers. Christians will support their own. We see what's happening in America. We see that we are becoming less and less respected, dignified, or protected. And so I am not going to go down without a fight. I am looking for awakened warriors. It is my mission to go to the church in America and to teach them about being all in for Christ. That's what you have to be. There's no more games, no playing around. This has to be truly who you actually are every single moment of every single day. And part of that is we are going to have to do the things that we were told to do from the get-go. That means you visit prisons. That means you take care of the widows and the orphans. That means that you come to maybe my mission field, which is nightclubs. When I go into comedy clubs, you come and support that. And what does the club do? They say, I guess Christians want this stuff. Apparently we should bring more guys like this in. And guess what happens? Instead of you protesting that they got some really nasty guy in this club that nobody cares what you think, instead of that, why don't you just simply replace the nasty guy with a Christian conservative who actually has some humor and is maybe somewhat sophisticated and interesting? And every time I'm there, that's one night that darkness isn't. So we can begin to infiltrate into Satan's domain and just deliver the goods. So this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in different clubs. I have some different clubs that we're trying to put together. I'll let you know. We're looking into Ohio right now, some clubs. We haven't got that confirmed yet. But it is coming, so I will let you know. Also, do not forget to keep bidding on the poster. Whoever donates the most, I will send it to him, and I will sign it. Also, don't forget the T-shirt. These are important because they are one of a kind, and when they are gone for good. I don't know if I'll ever redo these, but anyways, $50 or more, and you get it. And don't forget, nothing matters but God shirt. The highest bid over 50 will get this signed to you, and the audio book, Being a Christian Without Being an Idiot, 11 Assumed Truths That Make Us Look Stupid. So go ahead, do whatever you want to bid on that, and whoever wins that, again, we will send you the link to the signatory. This is my personal ministry account where they hold whatever donations come, so I can use them for anything that I need when I'm trying to build a ministry, where I'm going to get into the mic, more cameras, and eventually be having guests here. The whole thing. You guys know it. You've heard it a million times. So we talked about the religion of PC, but I wanted you to see how deep it is. That's why I started the PC free movement. It's kind of like saying I'm not going to succumb to this, because if I do, not only am I losing my freedom, but in a sense, I am bowing to another God, to another religious conviction. And I'm a Christ follower. I don't have the option to do that. That's blasphemy. It's heresy. So I started sort of that element that I wasn't really realizing I was going to go right into by talking about baseball. I talked to you about the Dodgers and how I grew up a Dodger fan. That's why I'm still a Dodger fan. And I'm grateful for that. My father passed away, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago. But every time I see the Dodgers, I can't help but think of my dad. It was beautiful. And I talked about how I saw players of all races, Latinos and black and white and short and tall and fat. Baseball's like no other sport. Fat guys can play, tall guys can play, short guys can play. It was, in fact, the American tradition. We invented it, the national pastime. And they decided that because Georgia made a rule that you need an ID before you can vote, just so we make sure that you're a legitimate voter, they thought that was somehow racist. And so they decided we're going to move this out. Now remember, this is the professional sport that brought us Jackie Robinson, that truly did something groundbreaking, earth-shatteringly amazing by saying we're going to do what is right. This is a real law. They're really not allowed to play in this game. We're going to break that. White guy, general manager Branch Rickey. Black guy who took, he won the Rookie of the Year award and should have won everything else. I can't even imagine a guy who was told, you're going to go play, they're going to throw balls at your head, they're going to spike you, and here's what I'm going to ask you. For 3 years, you cannot fight back, not once. Guy punches you, you can't punch him. Guy spikes you, you can't spike him. Guy beans you, you can't go fight him. For 3 years, this is what he was told. If this is going to work, we have to prove that you guys are just as good as everybody else. It's ridiculous. We have to go through this, but this is what we're going to have to do to change the culture, to see that they're just guys that just want to play. And if they happen to be better than this color guy, who gives a crap? Whoever is the best plays. That's how it should be. It's just the way it should be. And that should either make you become a better player to try to supersede them, make you better, raise your game, or go find another game. That's the way the world works. The poor will always be among you, said Jesus. In other words, not everybody's going to get the same thing. Not everybody's going to be equally as good. Your job is to be grateful for what you have and make the most of what you're good at. Instead of trying to demand you're given the same as somebody else, why don't you get really good at what your gift is? Maybe you trying to get the same as somebody else is actually eliminating something amazing you could have given society if you had simply perceived and sought after and went after that which you're great at. Maybe we need you where you are and see the big picture, that there's something you're leaving. Maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's not always about you. Maybe it's about somebody else. As I've said to you before, sometimes you're the answer to somebody else's prayer. It's not about you getting everything you want every time you want it. So that's really what I wanted to say about baseball, is it did its job. It made its stand. It showed that people of all races, colors, creeds, and sizes can play equally. It made incredible, iconic moments in America that changed it forever. It passed on traditions, not only in the inventing of the game, but for fathers and sons and mothers and daughters to pass on to others, so that they could have that lineage. My dad loved that. My grandfather loved that. And they took a stand that clearly was one-sided. They took one perspective, leftist, religious perspective. If you don't agree with us, you are discounting our religious heritage. There was a time when Christianity would have been that category, that you treat it with respect and dignity because it was the founding fathers' religion that they relied on and that they looked to and that they referenced when they were talking about how this country won't survive if we're not a religious people. They referenced in Christianity. Well, that used to have that kind of high status. that high sacred status in the United States. It doesn't anymore. And so only that's left are us, the awakened warriors, who are going to have to revitalize the church from the get-go. Get rid of the churchgoers and only be filled with those who are actually Christ followers, who are willing to die for him, and to be able to pray regularly and be able to fast and be able to do things that are expected of you that we haven't done in centuries in America. And it's why we've lost our way. So baseball should have just stayed neutral. Listen, whatever you people choose to vote for or not vote for, that's between you. We're just baseball. Just come and watch a game. This is one thing that isn't going to take a side. It's just baseball. Come and enjoy it. Or don't. But we're here for everybody. We're not making a stand. And then they moved to Denver, which has stricter laws for ID, for voting. It was absurd. And by the way, and I just heard this, obviously Atlanta, Georgia, majority black. All those people and those businesses and those vendors and all those people who were ready to make a lot of money on the All-Star game just lost it. They went to Denver, more whites, and they're going to make money. So once again, the left, like always, screwed up and did everything wrong. Whatever the left touches is poisoned. Everything the left seeks to do is destroyed because it's a lie. It has no substance. It has no foundation. It's built on sand. It always crumbles. So it broke my heart that baseball didn't just be what it has always been, an American pastime, the one thing we could count on. Just like 3 strikes and you're out, right? Swinging for the fences, home run, grand slam, all the nomenclature from baseball that has even become part of the language and the fabric of America. And they decided to not only take a stand and harm people in the meantime, but take a stand against other Americans who don't think like them. All you had to be was have the courage to be neutral, to have the courage to say, we're not doing politics. We're just here. It's baseball. It doesn't have a point of view. You broke my heart. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it this year. I don't know. But that's what I wanted to leave you guys with this week. I'm about to shut her down. I always go look later, and if people have questions, I'm sorry I didn't get to any questions. I thought I was going to, but I went a little long on some of my topics. Whoever bids the most on the shirts, please, we'll send you the link. I'll sign it. We'll send it to you, as well as the poster and the audiobook, Being a Christian Without Being in It, 11 Assumed Truths that make us look stupid. Also, if you want to come with me at the end of May to Front Sight, which is the greatest teaching of handgun training for concealed carry permit holders or those who want to get a concealed carry permit, you can meet me in Pahrump, Nevada. You can take a 3, 4, 5-day course, even a 1-day if you want to. Looking for 10 people that are ready to go out there and spend the time. We'll get to know each other. You will shoot some together. But more importantly, you will be learning things for you and your family that you can pass on, and you'll be a good citizen, prepared to defend your family or whomever you need to defend in case you are being attacked, and God forbid that takes place. But if it does, you'll be ready. So that's what's coming. Don't forget Tampa, April 25th. If you aren't in the Tampa area, but you know people that are, please share with them. Please tell them, let's fill it up. We have to sell the place out to show that we are awakened warriors. We support our own, and we are going to fight the good fight as Christians, but we're going to have to do it in totally unorthodox ways now. Part of it's going to be going into comedy clubs. Part of it's going to be standing up for things we didn't know we were going to have to stand up for. This is what's expected of the true Christ followers, and it's what gives you the understanding that you have joined the movement. PC free is liberty. Be an awakened warrior. God bless you guys for coming back. I will see you next week, and we will be talking about more things. And if you have any questions maybe you want me to cover next week, I'll try to get to them. In the meantime, God bless you. Thanks for coming back, and I will see you next week. Keep donating. I'll send you the stuff.